It was my boyfriend's birthday party. His ex-girlfriend showed up wearing the exact same white chiffon dress as me. One of his friends suggested playing a blindfolded game to liven up the atmosphere, the Find Your Wife game. With his eyes blindfolded, my boyfriend walked straight over to his ex-girlfriend, embracing her waist and kissing her passionately. The atmosphere in the room became awkwardly silent. Everyone stared in shock, not expecting the game to go so wrong. To everyone's surprise, I started clapping and stepped off the stage, queuing up a nostalgic love song about missing an ex. I Still Miss You. The speakers filled the room with a dreamy, intoxicating melody. I still love you, want to enter your heart, peel away the mist and grab hold of your voice. The two on stage kissed as if entranced. The friend who suggested the game looked embarrassed, covering his eyes and reluctantly tapping Ethan. Ethan pulled off the sheer scarf, his face flushed with passion. He was quickly replaced by panic and awkwardness. I thought it was you, I was walking towards you. Before the real girlfriend, could even ask, Ethan was already anxiously explaining himself. He looked guiltily into my eyes. Emma, it was a mistake. Sophie had been drinking and was wobbly on her feet from Ethan's kiss. She clung to him, looking at me provokingly. Another friend quickly tried to cover for Ethan. It's all Bear's fault for suggesting such a dumb game. He should drink 3 shots as punishment to apologize to Emma. Bear came over with a drink, apologizing profusely, but I ignored him, and didn't he respond? The atmosphere plummeted again. Everyone thought I was bottling up my anger, ready to explode, and they shrank back a step. Sophie can barely stand, why don't you two go to one of the private rooms and continue there? I said in a mocking tone, using the most disdainful words to strike at their deepest insecurities. Ethan's face darkened. I said it was a mistake, don't be so sarcastic. Sophie and I broke up years ago, we're just ordinary friends now. I've always treated her as a friend, and she has a boyfriend too. Don't go looking for trouble for her. Ethan, don't scare Emma. It was our fault to begin with. Sophie finally pulled herself upright, looking sweetly at me. Emma, just treat what happened as a silly joke, okay? Ethan and I used to be the most intimate, you can't hold it against us forever, right? The friends all laughed it off, accepting Sophie's explanation and telling me to forget the incident. Seeing I didn't argue back, Ethan visibly relaxed, letting out a quiet sigh of relief. If this had happened before, I would have cried, momentarily ripping off my weak facade to question and accuse him in front of everyone, making a scene just to defend my pitiful self-respect that they trampled on. When Ethan and Sophie broke up, it wasn't long before he accepted my pursuit. He came from a better family, had better relationships, and had an unparalleled good-looking appearance. Everyone thought I had used some underhanded tricks to take advantage of the situation and climb up to Ethan's level. Even though I was misunderstood, I never tried to explain myself. Ethan chose me, which meant he liked me. I loved him to the bone and was willing to give everything for him. I almost had the responsibility of taking care of his diet and daily life engraved in my bones. However, he took my wholehearted dedication for granted, while I felt like I never entered his heart. Until 3 years ago, when Sophie reappeared in his life, my nightmare began. He started not coming home at night, getting dead drunk, and rushing to her call. I had argued and fought with him. He always stabbed me again when I was most broken. With Sophie, she needs me. She's having a hard time, only I can help her. She's sick, I can't ignore her. She's heartbroken, I have to accompany her. She's in love again, let me celebrate with her. We had both collapsed in our hearts over and over again. I can't even remember how many times we fought because of her. Afterwards, he would patiently say a few conciliatory words. I would seize the opportunity to retreat, it would be best to go with the flow. If I didn't know my place and continued to throw a tantrum, what awaited me would be an endless cold war. It was the worst time yet when I scolded Sophie for having ulterior motives towards him, for not knowing her place, and for trying to seduce him despite having a boyfriend. He got angry and disappeared for half a month, and even when I apologized and admitted my mistake, he still wouldn't come home. In the end, I panicked. I couldn't eat or sleep, and I reached out to everyone I knew to get him back. It wasn't until I wrote Sophie a 1,000-word apology letter that he finally showed up. Because I loved him and didn't want to lose him, I made sure that after every argument or cold war, things never dragged on overnight. I would immediately apologize whenever he softened his tone. The more I did this, the more I became anxious about losing him. The tighter I held on, the more I suffered. Now, I was dealing with severe insomnia. Even with sleeping pills, I found it hard to fall asleep. My love had sunk to the ground, nearly exhausted from endless quarrels. 2. Emma, Sophie is asking you something. Ethan's voice broke through my thoughts. I looked at them, leaning against each other, and absent-mindedly replied, Since that's the case, let us consider this matter settled. Don't bring it up again, and don't sulk. Come over and have some fun with us. Ethan said softly, as if the earlier game mistake was as trivial as a sneeze. I picked up my bag and slung it over my shoulder, refusing with a seemingly understanding demeanor. No, you all have fun. I have something to take care of, so I'll head back first. Then please settle the bill before you leave, and make me a cup of kudzu tea. I'll need it when I get back tonight. Before Ethan could finish, Sophie pulled him away. Right in front of me, they began to sing love songs together. Ethan was completely absorbed in the performance, gazing at Sophie with tender eyes. Sophie returned his gaze with equal affection. Looking around, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Besides the two of them, I was the only one capturing everyone's attention. The underlying meaning of the situation was too complex for me to decipher, and I had no desire to analyze it all. As I left, Ethan's eyes remained fixed on Sophie. For a brief moment, I felt I had made a mistake. I shouldn't love him. My love had bound him and affected his ability to love someone else. This time, I was sure I didn't want to love Ethan anymore. 3. I left calmly. Inside, the atmosphere suddenly relaxed and everyone resumed drinking and laughing loudly. Not a single person condemned their behavior or questioned whether they owed me an apology. I was no longer in love, so there was no need to dwell on it. I was tired and didn't want to keep fixating on them. There were more important things in life that deserved my energy. On the way home, I felt an unprecedented sense of calm. I wasn't tormented by memories of their passionate kisses. But once I got home and finished washing up, I still struggled to sleep. Even with sleeping pills, I couldn't find rest. I couldn't increase the dosage anymore. 3 years of insomnia couldn't simply be cured by deciding to let go. I used to spend countless nights watching Ethan's sleeping face to get through the long, dark hours. Now, I would have to rely on myself. 4. Ethan stumbled home at 3 in the morning, completely drunk, calling my name incoherently at the entrance. In the past, no matter how late he returned from socializing, I would always wait for him. I'd help him take off his shoes, ask if he felt okay, prepare his favorite hangover remedy fruit tea, and give him a massage to help him relax. But tonight, I did nothing. Even after he called my name 3 times, I continued to lie in bed pretending to be asleep. Emma, he shouted again, his voice laced with evident anger. I remained unmoved. Outside, I heard the sound of hurried, unsteady footsteps. The next moment, Ethan was in the bathroom, throwing up noisily. The next day, he fell asleep on the bathroom floor, still in his clothes, without even changing his shoes. I took a deep breath and kicked him hard twice. Ethan groggily lifted his head and glanced at his watch. Why are you just getting up now? He asked, bewildered. Usually, I would wake up at 5 to make him a heartfelt breakfast. Today, I had the rare luxury of sleeping in until 6:30. Even though I had only managed a couple of hours of sleep, it was still better than staying awake all night. He clumsily got up from the floor, ripped off his dirty clothes, and confronted me. Why didn't you wait for me to come home? Where's the kudzu tea? Why did you let me sleep in the bathroom all night? He was still drunk, and I couldn't be bothered to engage with him. Emma, I'm hungry. There's a breakfast shop downstairs. You can grab something on your way to work. I quickly washed up and cleaned the toilet since I would need to use it too. Ethan frowned in disbelief. Emma, are you still mad about last night? I'm really not angry. You said it was a mistake and I believe you. Ethan pressed his lips together, suddenly turning on the shower and drenching me with water. I instinctively gasped. He showered with me, humming the love song he had sung with Sophie the night before. How childish. The entire day, I threw myself into work, not sending Ethan a single message or making a call. Instead, it was Ethan who took the initiative to text me. He said he was going to have dinner with Sophie because she had just gone through a breakup. When you don't love someone, you really can become as tough as iron with no soft spots. I replied casually. Okay. My indifferent attitude shocked him again. He immediately called me on video. His brow was furrowed and he seemed to be in a low-pressure state, ready to explode at any moment. Aren't you going to say something? You used to stop me from going out with her. I smiled gently. You and Sophie are just ordinary friends, engaging in normal social activities. What is there to stop? His dark expression instantly froze, his face filled with disbelief. 5. Ethan sent me a photo of him and Sophie drinking together in the evening. They were as close as they were the night before. Sophie had her head resting on his shoulder, her hair cascading down to cover half her face, obscuring her expression. I was surprised because he never shares these kinds of moments. Usually, I have to pry details out of him, and even then, he reluctantly reveals just a hint. I can't help but imagine various scenarios based on the little details he shares, what they talked about, what they did, whether there are signs of them rekindling their relationship. Sometimes, these thoughts drive me to the brink of mental exhaustion. While Ethan's distance from me grows, I feel trapped in a dead end. Yet now, my heart is as calm as a still pond. Enjoy your meal. I typed, but the chat with Ethan remained stuck on typing without any response. I didn't care what he wanted to say or what had happened to bring them so close. I was indifferent to how he might comfort Sophie, who had just gone through a breakup. In fact, a strange sense of relief washed over me. I no longer had to stay up late waiting for him to come home or wake up early to prepare him a heartfelt breakfast. Tonight, I didn't bombard him with calls like before. Instead, I calmly went through my evening routine, took 3 sleeping pills, and quietly drifted off to sleep. Miraculously, I fell asleep quickly. It felt so peaceful, so comfortable. It was a long-lost sense of relaxation. Ethan returned early the next morning, his face bruised. He rubbed his forehead and explained, "I got drunk last night and fought with Sophie's boyfriend. I spent the night in jail." I tilted my head and stared at his face for a couple of seconds, not concerned about his pain, but asking the question a bystander would care about most. "Oh, did you win?" Ethan looked taken aback, frowning slightly. The air felt thick and silent. He probably expected me to rush to get ice for his injuries or run downstairs to buy him some ointment for bruises. When I didn't respond, he silently nodded, offering no further explanation. It was the weekend, but I had to support an exhibition downtown as a key member of the operations team. Before I even arrived at the exhibition, I received a message from Sophie. Opening it revealed a photo of a red heart tattoo with special effects. My heart sank. That was Ethan's tattoo. I had insisted he get that design. I told him it represented my heart, one that would always beat for him. "Emma, where did Ethan get that cool tattoo?" Sophie messaged. "I love sunflowers and have always wanted to get a sunflower tattoo on my arm, but I haven't found a reliable artist. Please tell me, Emma, haha." At that moment, my already numb heart felt a sharp pain. It was so vivid and raw. I was reminded that I had a golden sunflower tattoo on my chest. Ethan once said, "Get a sunflower tattoo. I love sunflowers." Whenever he felt lost in passion, he would gently caress the sunflower, treating it with utmost care. I mistakenly thought that in those moments, he genuinely cherished me. But it turned out he was merely reminiscing about someone who loved sunflowers. Ethan's tattoo was in a private area, on the left side of his groin. Only the closest people could see it during intimate moments. Clearly, they had spent the night together again. 6. Sophie sent me another message after some time. "Emma, don't misunderstand. I just went through a breakup and I'm feeling down. I want to get a tattoo to change my mood. Ethan just fought with my ex-boyfriend for me last night and I didn't want to bother him again, so I'm asking you instead. I got it done at my friend's shop. The tattoo artist is a really beautiful girl. If you need it, I can send you the address. But she has a phobia of clusters, so she can't handle people who are too calculating. She tends to have allergic reactions." Sophie didn't reply after that. By the time I arrived at the venue, more guests had started to arrive. I quickly put on my badge and immersed myself in work, not giving much thought to Ethan's tattoo. After some time, while I was introducing our company's products to potential clients, Ethan showed up. He was out of breath, his chest heaving as he stared directly at me. Sophie must have complained to Ethan again, crying about how I had scolded her. This tactic always worked on him. It perfectly illustrated the saying that when an ex cries, the current partner always loses. Ignoring that I was in the middle of work, Ethan rushed over, snatched the brochure from my hand, and pulled me into a secluded corner of the exhibition. I thought he was going to explode with anger, berating me for being cruel and petty. But then, his fierce gaze softened, revealing a hint of guilt I had never seen before. "Emma, I need to explain about the tattoo," he said. After a brief moment of heartache, I had already come to terms with it, so I just looked at him calmly. "Last night, after we were released from the station, we went back to Sophie's place to grab some things. I didn't tell you the truth because I was afraid you would misunderstand. So you spent the night at Sophie's. We're innocent, nothing happened. I just asked her to help me find a towel, and she happened to see the tattoo." Sophie could snap a photo with just a glance. Her eyes must be like a camera. It felt pointless to expose the truth. Having been through so much, I preferred to watch others act out their dramas. In the exciting moments, I almost wanted to applaud him. I nodded nonchalantly. "Oh, got it. You're not mad at me." I smiled. "Why would I be mad? It's not me who was seen by her. As long as you think it's fine, that's all that matters." After all, you two are just ordinary friends, completely innocent. You always said I was too possessive, and didn't he give you freedom? I reflected on that and I think you were right. So from now on, if you want to have dinner with someone, get into a fight, or sleep over at someone else's place, I won't interfere. You're free now, Ethan. Ethan was stunned, his expression changing instantly. Emma, what do you mean? I've explained everything to you. Is it fun for you to be sarcastic? He expected me to play along, to act as if nothing had happened, to continue treating him like royalty. Otherwise, I would come off as unreasonable and lacking perspective. But I wouldn't indulge him anymore. Is there anything else? If not, I need to get back to work. As I turned to leave, Ethan grabbed my arm, his tone urgent. I've told you so many times, I have no feelings for Sophie anymore. I see her as a friend. If she's in trouble and I can help, I will, because it's not easy for her to be alone. Can you please stop being angry? Show her a little kindness. I'm almost at my limit with you. I didn't want to hear his accusations anymore and forcefully shook off his hand. I'm not angry and I believe you're just friends. Didn't I give you the freedom you wanted? Why are you so frantic to prove something? I have to work now. You should calm down. I dragged my weary body back to the exhibition and my colleague, Ms. Ward, patted my shoulder with concern. If you're tired, go rest. We can handle things here. I forced a smile, trying to appear strong. I'm fine, it's just a small issue I can handle. Ms. Ward, organizing the brochures on the desk, defended me. Emma, when you talked about your boyfriend before, your eyes sparkled and you were full of energy, like you were glowing. I was genuinely happy for you. How long has it been since you smiled? In a relationship, you must know your place. Simply accommodating and tolerating someone will only spoil them. Yes, I used to be cheerful and lively, able to sleep soundly even when the sky was falling. Ever since Ethan reconnected with Sophie after their breakup, I had become cautious, suspicious, and anxious about losing him. I couldn't even complete my work as efficiently as before, leading to someone else snatching the coveted position of operations director from me. I had transformed from a sunny little girl into a whiny woman everyone found annoying. In an instant, I realized something. I needed to return to being the happy, confident, and fighting spirit I once was. 7. After finishing the exhibition, I didn't go home, but returned to the office to sort through my chaotic work logs. I wanted to regain my confidence through work and make up for the emotional void I felt. The satisfying flow of work grounded me. It was not until 8 in the evening that I picked up my phone, and the screen was filled with missed calls from Ethan. Just as I unlocked it, his call came through again. After hesitating, I answered. Emma, I'm hungry. Come back and make dinner for me, he said. I still have work to finish. You can order takeout, I replied. You always say takeout is bad for your health. I want to drink your duck soup. It's already 8. If I rush back to make the soup, it'll take at least 3 hours. Ethan, I'm exhausted. Ethan raised his voice unconsciously. Aren't you always restless at night? You used to get up at 2 in the morning just to make it for me whenever I wanted. What's going on with you? What do you want? Are you still mad at me for lying to you? I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd be angry, and look where we are now. The last sentence he almost shouted. After that, there was a long silence. In the past, when arguments reached this point, I would have bowed my head and admitted my mistakes, even if I had urgent reports to handle. I would have quickly returned to make him a pot of fragrant duck soup. Time ticked by and I remained unmoved. Ethan issued a final ultimatum. Are you coming back to make dinner or not? I said I'm not angry. I still have work to. Then the line went dead. He was angry, and knowing his personality, this cold war would last at least 10 days. However, to my surprise, less than 2 hours later, Ethan sent me a photo. On a beautifully arranged dining table sat a pot of perfectly brewed duck soup with tea tree mushrooms and cordyceps flowers. There were no extra words, just a silent intimidation. The edge of the photo revealed a delicate, snowy white hand holding a ladle to serve the soup. I recognized those hands too well, they belonged to Sophie. Ethan had brought Sophie to my home and used my things to cook him a pot of duck soup. After they had gone to bed, Sophie sent me a picture of his private tattoo. Less than a day after he insisted they were innocent, he brought her to my home. He was deliberately trying to provoke me, forcing me to apologize. A wave of nausea surged through me. I could no longer hold it in and rushed to the bathroom, gagging until my whole body trembled. 8. After returning from the office, I sat on a bench downstairs until 3 in the morning before going upstairs. At 1 o'clock, I saw Sophie leaving, with Ethan personally seeing her off downstairs. He had a bandage on his face, and Sophie had dressed his wounds well. They chatted downstairs for over 10 minutes, their eyes only for each other, completely oblivious to me sitting 2 meters away under the streetlight. I heard Sophie whine. If Emma doesn't want us to meet, we should keep our distance from now on. Don't worry about her. She's just petty, and she doesn't know how to do anything but sulk and be jealous. She'll be fine in a couple of days, Ethan replied, belittling me. Sophie laughed loudly at his words. Does your face still hurt? I feel so guilty, 1 pot of duck soup can't make up for it. Tell me what else you want and I'll agree to anything. Ethan licked his swollen lip and smiled. Really? Ah, forget it. I saved the beauty, it's all good now. It'll be fine in a couple of days. They chatted for 10 minutes and Sophie spent 7 of those minutes mocking and belittling me. She said my taste was poor, and my home looked like it belonged in the 60s. She urged Ethan to be more generous and buy me some fashionable clothes and cosmetics. Ethan sighed. She's only good at cooking, she's not as good as you in any other way. I want her to learn from you. You saw it, let's not talk about it, it's just bad luck. Then why did you choose her as your girlfriend in the first place? Without hesitation, Ethan replied. She's cheap and doesn't need pampering. Just a smile from me can make her happy for days. She takes care of me better than my mom. For the first time in my life, I felt such humiliation and vulnerability, as if something inside me had collapsed. I had to grip the bench tightly to steady myself. After sending Sophie away, Ethan dumped the leftover duck soup into the garbage bin without a second thought. 9. Seeing me regain my previous momentum at work, my boss decided to give me another chance and entrusted me with the development and operation of Fode's new product from the exhibition. I felt incredibly grateful and excited. If I broke up tonight, it would surely cause a scene that would disturb everyone's rest and indirectly affect my work progress. It would be better to wait until the sales of this batch of products stabilized before addressing that matter. As I opened the door, a cloud of smoke rushed into my nostrils from the living room. Ethan was still awake, sitting on the sofa and smoking, with a full ashtray beside him. He shot me a dissatisfied glance. Emma, you're becoming increasingly indifferent to me. Do you have someone else outside? I paused while changing into my slippers and turned my head. What's your basis for that accusation? Just because I didn't come back to make you duck soup? Other than blaming me, he didn't mention anything about tonight's events. Emma, you've changed. You weren't like this before. You've become so cold that I can hardly recognize voucher. I didn't have the energy to argue with him and tiredly replied. Of course, it's hard to notice a grown man right under your nose. By the way, trash has its own classification next time. Remember to sort it out so you don't make extra work for the cleaners. His face turned pale at my words. You were downstairs. What did you hear? Walking to the dining table, I saw my carefully chosen white lace tablecloth stained with a large patch of soup. Without hesitation, I tore it off and calmly tossed it into the trash. I heard everything I was supposed to and not supposed to hear. I don't know anything, that I'm good at being jealous. I have no taste, I'm cheap, and I don't need coaxing. The only thing I'm good at is cooking and taking care of people, I said, as I packed up the clay pot Sophie used to make soup, the bowls, and the used chopsticks, throwing them all into the trash. One silently cleaned up the mess they left behind. Ethan, however, couldn't sit still. The ash from his cigarette piled up long and high on his fingertips. The panic on his face was hard to conceal, as if he had just been poisoned and was about to succumb. Emma, I was just talking nonsense. You're not really angry with me, right? Another silence fell between us, the only sound being the water running over my fingers. After drying my hands, I went to the bathroom to wash up. By the time I returned with a clean blanket to the guest room, we hadn't exchanged another word. Ethan still sat on the sofa, staring blankly, lost in his thoughts. But that didn't concern me. After a brief moment of heartache, I felt numb. I had already divided my heart into pieces for Ethan, like paying reparations. Now, I was just slowly reclaiming those pieces, and it didn't hurt as much anymore. Tonight, I planned to take 2 sleeping pills to see how it went. Lying in bed, my mind was filled with work-related thoughts, and before I knew it, sleepiness washed over me. I ended up sleeping soundly until 10 o'clock the next morning. 10. Ethan was not home. I didn't know if he was disappearing again to force me to admit my mistakes, and I didn't care when he would come back. I felt reborn, transforming into a workaholic minute by minute. During the day, I discussed product production and quality control with the production team, and at night, I worked overtime, adjusting and comparing various operational channels. I had no extra time to think about anything else. To track the effectiveness of our product launches in real time, I practically lived at the office. Strangely, my sleep quality had noticeably Improved I could sleep through the night with just one sleeping pill. On the 6th day of being out of touch with Ethan, he showed up at the office with a bouquet of bright red roses. "Emma, how many bottles of glucose have you been drinking? You can't keep abusing your body like this. Come home with me, I have a surprise for you." I was momentarily taken aback. How did he know? Had he secretly come to the office to check on me? Was he actually concerned about me? My neglect and indifference toward him had finally made him realize my worth. But unfortunately, it was too late. The heart that had once beat for him was now shattered into pieces. Over the 5 years we had been together, I was the one constantly giving him gifts for every occasion, trying to create surprises for him. Even on ordinary days, I would occasionally bring him a bouquet of sunflowers. He accepted my gifts gladly, but couldn't he even remember my birthday? Ethan gently placed the flowers in my arms, looking at me with anticipation. I didn't particularly like roses, they were too ostentatious, while I preferred to remain low-key. Now that our product launch was performing well, with profits rebounding slowly after hitting a low 3 days ago, it seemed stable as long as nothing went wrong. The clothes I had brought last time were no longer enough for a change, so it was time to head back home and sort out our issues. I casually set the flowers on my desk, nodded, and replied, "Okay." 11. I asked Ethan to go home first, as that a summary meeting to attend. By the time I got home 2 hours later, Ethan was in the kitchen. He was wearing my apron and enthusiastically cooking with a spatula. Standing beside him was Sophie, gazing at him with infatuation, a smile lighting up her face. After watching me clean up her mess with disdain, he had brought her home. Quite the surprise. The surprises didn't end there. After 5 years, I was astonished to learn that Ethan could cook. Hearing the noise, he rushed towards me, wiping his hands on the apron, and pulled out a chair for me at the dining table. "Emma, you're back just in time, dinner will be ready soon. Sit down and take a break." The table was set with a clean sunflower-patterned tablecloth. It was glaringly ironic. Sophie came over, sweetly calling out, "Emma." "I'm sorry, Emma. That day, Ethan got into a fight with my boyfriend for me and got hurt. I couldn't let him go home alone, so I stayed with him," she explained. "The tattoo photo was a misunderstanding. Please don't be mad at Ethan for that, I would feel terrible. And about that night when we talked downstairs, just pretend you didn't hear it. I had just broken up, and it was a tough time for me. Ethan was only comforting me, he truly loves you." Sophie was beautiful, dressed in a fitted, pastel floral dress, with her well-maintained, wavy, shoulder-length hair making her look even more charming and endearing. She was a stark contrast to my work attire. In the past, I might have felt insecure and looked down, instinctively trying to hide. Now, I confidently met her gaze and smiled. "It's fine, I'm really not angry. If there's no love left, there's no point in holding grudges." The more nonchalant I acted, the more Ethan's panic became evident, like a clear sky suddenly struck by lightning. "Emma, please don't say things out of anger," he pleaded, almost begging, as he froze in place. I maintained my calm smile. "Let's eat, I'm hungry." I picked up my fork and took a bite of the fish-flavored shredded pork. "Ethan, I didn't know you could cook. This tastes really good." Sophie, sitting across from me, asked curiously, "He's never cooked for you before? You really need to try his cooking." In the past, I was picky about food, so Ethan started following online tutorials to learn how to cook. He's quite talented, he picks things up quickly. This braised pork rib dish is his specialty, and it's my favorite. Just as I picked up a piece of rib, it suddenly slipped from my fork and fell onto the table. Looking at Sophie, I saw pride shining in her eyes. Although it was unnecessary, I had to admit that I felt completely defeated in front of Sophie. There was no pain or anger, just a deep sadness over how ridiculous I had been. So many times, he had waited for me to finish working late, even starving himself just to have me cook for him. So many times, he had suddenly craved skewers in the middle of the night. I would spend 1 or 2 hours preparing them, only for him to fall asleep before he could eat. Because I loved him, I deserved to be toyed with. Ethan nudged Sophie with his elbow, and she seemed to realize her mistake, pretending to cover her mouth in guilt. Seeing him so cautious made me smile again. "Don't be nervous, I'm really not angry. I just feel a bit sorry for myself." I picked up the fallen rib and popped it into my mouth. It really is delicious." After dinner, Ethan stood up to clear the dishes. I stopped him. "Don't bother, just throw them away. They're dirty, and we won't be using them again." Both of them froze in shock. I continued, "It's late, how about I book you a hotel room? I have a cleanliness obsession and can't accept someone who sleeps around in my house." Sophie's face flushed red, tears welling in her eyes. "Emma, what do you mean? How can you say something so insulting? Stop pretending, Sophie. You took a photo of his tattoo and still dare to say you two didn't sleep together? You're blatantly insulting my intelligence. Why can't I just speak the truth? Those feigning innocent skills of yours only fool Ethan, that silly boy. To me, you're just a clown. This was the first time I confronted Sophie directly, yet my tone remained gentle and calm. After holding back all night, Ethan immediately stepped in front of Sophie, shouting at me, "Emma, are you done? Haven't we explained everything to you? Why are you acting crazy again? If you're upset, take it out on me. What did Sophie do wrong? Why are you targeting her? No matter what she did, whenever there was a conflict, it was always my fault." I didn't believe he couldn't hear Sophie's provocations hidden in her words. He just habitually tolerated her, instinctively defended her, and directed his anger at me. I had known this would happen, and inside, I felt completely calm, even more so than ever before. As the restaurant fell silent, Ethan's last explosive shout echoed, and he seemed to realize something too late. He walked Sophie to the door, then turned back to take my hand. "Emma, tell me, what can I do to make you stop being angry and return to how things were before?" I slightly turned away, avoiding his grasp. "Which past are you talking about? 5 years ago, when we just started dating and I took care of you like a mother? Or 3 years ago, when Sophie barged back into your life and we argued and went cold on each other every few days, caught in an endless cycle? Whichever past it is, it seems to be against me. I don't want to go back, Ethan." I looked at him with a smile. "Ethan, let's break up." 12. Ethan's eyes widened, filled with a mix of disbelief, anxiety, confusion, and regret that flashed across his face. He couldn't help but tremble slightly. We looked at each other, our eyes meeting. I calmly repeated, "Ethan, we're breaking up, and you're moving out of my place tomorrow. I'm giving you the freedom you've been longing for." Ethan's rigid cheeks twitched. "Emma, you're not serious." I made a mistake that all men make, but I promise it won't happen again." I let out a bitter laugh, but before I could speak, Ethan interrupted me. He pulled out a gift box from behind his back like a magician. "Emma, I told you I had a surprise. Open it up and see." I stared at the box but made no move to open it. "Let me do it then." Ethan sat across from me, fumbling to unwrap the box, forcing a smile while his gaze kept shifting between me and the gift. After struggling to open it, inside was a photo album and a jewelry box. Ethan grabbed the album, excitedly flipping it open in front of me. "Emma, look. I compiled all our photos into an album. Imagine, when we're 80 or 90 years old, what will we feel when we look at these again?" There wasn't a single photo he willingly took, except for some candid shots. A small portion was taken when I begged him to take them with me. Seeing my lack of reaction, Ethan immediately put down the album and opened the velvet red box, revealing a pair of diamond rings. He knelt on one knee in front of me, solemnly saying, "Emma, I love you. Let's get married." My heart fluttered. We had been together for 5 years, and this was the first time he said "I love you." As for "I like you," he only said it politely in response when I confessed to him, "I like you too." Back then, I naively took it as true, smiling happily, thinking it was the most beautiful love confession in the world. "I originally wanted to set up a proposal scene right outside your company, but you're so low-key and easily shy, I was afraid of scaring you, so I gave up on that idea. Emma, starting today, I won't let you worry and be afraid anymore. Please marry me. I know I've done many despicable things in the past, said many unreasonable words that hurt you and made you sad. Your anger is justified, you can even hit me or scold me. I'll work hard to get rid of all my bad habits. If you don't want to see Sophie, I'll cut off contact with her. I won't go drinking anymore, and I'll take care of the meals and household chores from now on. Don't worry, learn quickly. Emma, will you marry me?" He gently caressed my fingertips. "Emma, let me put the ring on your finger, okay?" I tried to withdraw my hand, but he gripped it tightly. I could only twist with all my strength to fight him. Ethan had never been so anxious before, his eyes red and moist. "Emma, don't do this, don't give up on me, please. Just let me put the ring on your finger, okay? Isn't this what you've always wanted, to marry me?" I gritted my teeth and suddenly yanked my hand away, my knuckles aching from his grip. "Ethan, I'm tired. I don't want to play house anymore. I used to love you so much, and I can let that go. You can too. Let's part ways amicably." Ethan's stiff back suddenly slumped, and he tightly hugged my knees, painfully saying, just now, I was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled at you because of Sophie. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Give me one more chance to redeem myself, please Emma, just one more chance. I'll definitely improve, I promise." I let him hug me. "Ethan, I've given you chances before. When disappointment accumulates enough, hope will no longer exist. I broke free from Ethan's embrace, closing the door amidst his increasingly uncontrolled pleas. If only he had said these words sooner. But alas, it was too late now. 13. Ethan refused to leave, so I packed his belongings and threw them outside, changing the locks on the door. He spent night after night waiting at my doorstep, refusing to eat or drink. Within just a few days, he looked completely worn down. I had no choice but to call his parents to come and take him home. He agreed to leave but stubbornly left the engagement ring behind. Otherwise, he would come back again. After that, my phone was inundated with hundreds of messages from him saying I'm sorry. I had neither the time nor the energy, and certainly no reason, to respond to him. On the 10th day after our breakup, Ethan showed up at my workplace. He had lost a lot of weight and had abandoned his usual trendy style, opting instead for a standard dress shirt and slacks, with the engagement ring still on his finger. He came to the office looking for a job, but he wasn't hired due to a mismatch in qualifications. From that day on, he showed up every day at noon with a lunchbox. He said he had rented a place nearby and urged me not to order takeout anymore, promising to bring me lunch every day. This time, he kept his word, even though I never ate any of it. Sometimes I got so busy that I forgot to eat, and he would follow me around reminding me to take a break. When the security guard tried to escort him out, he would lose control and go wild. Ignoring the stares of others, he would cry uncontrollably in the office, slap himself, and list all the things he had done to hurt me in the past. It turned out he understood everything deep down. After a few episodes like this, sometimes coinciding with visits from partner companies, it started to reflect poorly on the company, and my boss had no choice but to talk to me. If he didn't leave, I would have to. When he barged into the office again, forcefully placing the lunchbox on my desk, I could no longer hold back. I dragged him outside and pinned him against the wall, unleashing all my frustrations and grievances from these past few days. Ethan, please stop clinging to me. You've ruined my hope for love and taken away my courage to be with someone. Now you want me to sacrifice my only job for you. Why, Ethan, why? Just because I loved you, does that mean I deserve to be tormented by you? After I've given you 5 years of my youth, can you let me go and let yourself go too, please? Exhausted, I leaned against the wall, sliding down to the floor, covering my face and crying loudly. Emma, I'm sorry. I will spend my whole life making it up to you. This was the last message I received from Ethan. 14. That day, I didn't know when he left. After that, he never appeared in my life again. Until 5 months later, when Sophie stopped me at my door. Even though she wore a loose dress, it couldn't hide her visibly pregnant belly. She was carrying Ethan's child and demanded to know where he was. Ethan's parents denied that the baby was their grandchild. She had no job and was on the brink of destitution. I never inquired about Ethan's income, but I knew he had been giving most of his money to Sophie. Believing me when I said I genuinely didn't know where Ethan was, she shed tears and begged me to lend her $5,000 for an abortion. This child seemed even more pitiful than I was. I couldn't give her money, but I handed over the engagement ring Ethan left behind. At least it was worth more than $5,000. Later, I heard from Ethan's friends that he had gone to a remote area to do charity work and teach, with no plans to return. Slowly, I began to move on from those gloomy days. Work was going well, and I felt mentally and physically at ease, able to sleep without relying on sleeping pills. Everything was heading in a positive direction. For the rest of my life, I would be truly happy.